Hello, Serge here from the Backyard Driving Range. We have a question that came in to customer service, and this is from Joe Purcell, PhD. And Joe says, I am 79 and don't hit drivers as well as fairway woods. I'm consistent straight with your system and have cut my shaft to match height, but with contemporary size heads. Just don't seem to have the control, nor am I able to get that snap and follow through that I get with the lighter fairway wood, and less distance than with my 7 wood. I don't drive well with my 3 wood, have tried most of the major brands. Do you know or can you recommend a vendor who makes a contemporary technology driver with smaller and lighter heads? Tour heads seem to be smaller, but they are heavy. I have shopped around for larger 3 woods, but without luck. Okay, and that's again thanks from Joe Purcell, PhD, from Bremerton, Washington. All right, Joe. Well, you've certainly done some things about trying to help yourself out here. So let's start by talking about the companies that make smaller heads. Right now, as far as I know, no major vendors, the big players out there that are sponsoring tour players and the big producers of golf clubs that advertise in all the magazines and on the golf tournaments and everything else. They're all pretty much making 460 heads. Now, 460 cc heads. I'm hearing rumors that some of them are starting to go down to 420. Doc Griffin, the fitter, and most of some other folks that I've talked to who are engineers and physicists believe that 420 is still too big. The reason is that they tell you that with bigger heads you got a bigger sweet spot. I'm sorry, that's a fallacy. It's not true. You can move a sweet spot around, but you can't make it bigger or smaller. This right here, the tip of this little pole is way bigger than a sweet spot. Now I can take it and I can move it around on the head, but I can't make it bigger. I mean, there was one company about a couple years ago that came out and said they had 9 sweet spots on the club. They had 3 rows, vertical rows of 3 sweet spots. And then they actually came back a year or so later and said, heck, we got the whole face as a sweet spot. No, it isn't. You got 1 sweet spot and that's it. Go look up the word sweet spot. Go look up the word percussion point or whatever, that's some other terms for it. Sweet spot, I've Googled it. It gives you a great definition. It says baseball bats have one. It says tennis rackets have one. Almost anything stick that you hit it will have, or implement that you hit something will have a sweet spot. But it's only one and it's small. All right? Now the point becomes, they can move it around and put it places. Because most golfers seem to swing inside out, cut across the ball and slice, they tend to move the sweet spot up here out more towards the toe. So the farther you move the sweet spot from from the shaft, they call that the axis of rotation, the more energy it takes to make that sweet spot, that weight out there, to get the club to square up as you're moving into impact. The club is coming in here like this and you got to square it up. Well, the more weight that's out here, the slower that head's going to move. Just think about putting a box on the ground. If you put a box and you got 5 pounds in it and you kick the outside edge of it, so I got this box right here and I kick the outside edge with X amount of force. If I put more weight in it and kick that outside right edge, I need a lot more energy, a lot more force to move that more weight in it. So the more they move it out there, try to give you the feeling of a more solid hit, the harder it is they're making you to be able to accelerate the club face and fast enough to do it. And that's why, as you say, Joe, you're hitting the ball much better with your 3 wood. You're trying to find a bigger 3 wood. Well, here's the key. Get a smaller driver. There's almost none of the major players. The 2 basic ones that most of our fitters use are KZG and a company called Alpha, and there's 1 or 2 other ones. And they make smaller heads. I have my head right here now is a 355 cc, and it's got a KZG head on it. KZG head. And I've also got another one that I use off and on with this one is an Alpha. Now I also have, this is a 10.5 degree. I got a 12 degree that I'm going to start using pretty soon because wintertime's coming. They're growing the fairways longer so to help the fairways survive better. And then consequently, we're going to get a little bit more rain and everything else. So I go to the 12 so I can hit the ball, keep it in the air longer, because I know whatever it hits, it's not going to go on, it's not going to run anymore. And so I go to the lofted one. Now, many of our fitters, when we get older players or any player with slower club head speeds, when it comes to the driver, they get them hit it better right off the bat by getting them out of 10 to 10.5 degrees. Heck, I've seen seniors show up with 8-degree and 9-degree drivers because they were told that this less loft is going to hit it farther. Well, if you can't hit the ball in the air long enough and you're not playing on fairways that are hard as bricks, and most golf clubs are not. They leave the fairways higher because most golfers want to be able to, when they move their ball and they take their preferred lie, they want to tee it up higher so they can hit it better. Why? It's the closest thing they can do to teeing it up on a tee, and they tend to hit it better off a tee because why? It's up in the air. It's going to get launched better. So they go to more loft. Many of our fitters will put players into 12 degrees. They've even put them into 14-degree drives for seniors, slow swingers, ladies. Even some of the kids, when you got younger kids coming up, they need more loft to get the ball in the air. So, and that's one thing that most people don't ever think about. And you say, oh, too much loft. Well, you need it. I mean, I'm actually reaching a point now where I got a 15-degree 3-wood, and I still hit it quite well, but I'm not quite launching it as high as I want it to go. And so I might probably have to start looking at dropping down to at least getting another degree loft on my 3-wood. Because, you know, I'm like everybody else. I'm losing a little bit of club head speed. I'm hanging in. I'm about 100 miles per hour. Somebody asked me, what do I shoot? What are my speeds? I'm about 100 miles an hour with my driver, and I'm sure I'm about probably 94, 95 with my 3-wood. At one time, just 2 or 3 years ago, before I had the heart surgery, I was about 103 to 105 miles an hour with my driver. Okay? And so think about the loft factor. That could be a big issue. Smaller head and loft. And when you get the smaller heads, and you get heads where they keep the sweet spot somewhere closer to the middle of the club, we call that MOI, moment of inertia. How can the club move around the axis of rotation of the shaft? The more the weight is out towards the toe, the harder it is to do that. And so you get the weights in the middle. With more loft, you're going to find, especially for seniors and low speed players, with the weight out there, it's harder to accelerate it. That's why, as you said, Joe, you could accelerate the 3-wood better. Okay? And I mean, in many cases, you might be better off playing with a 3-wood. Heck, just go find some of these 3-woods. Now, this guy's on tour with super clubhead speeds playing 14-degree 3-woods. Now, it's a smaller head, but I guarantee you, if you got 14 degrees and you get the right shaft in it and the right length, you'll be able to launch it a lot better. So, but they also make 12 and 14-degree drivers too. So find yourself a fitter, a certified fitter that can do that, and get you fitted with that, with the right shaft, the right length, and get you a head that's smaller, with the weight in the right place, get the right MOI for the club so you can square it up, and more loft to get it up in the air, and you're going to find that you'll be hitting it so much more consistent. That's why golfers can hit, why can they hit hybrids better than even 5-woods? Because they're shorter, and the heads are more compact, and it's got more loft. And the weight is designed lower to help get the ball up in the air. It's all about, golf's an air game, except when you're chipping and hitting pitching runs and putting. Okay? So you need good loft to keep the ball penetrating through the air. All right? So get that checked out, and I think you'll find you'll be in a more solid straight, and they'll definitely be longer when you get a better launch angle, and loft can really help you. So start thinking about more loft on your clubs too, on your driver, and even maybe your 3-wood, to get better results off hitting both of those clubs, both off the tee and the 3-wood off the fairway. Okay? Well, that's it for the Surge for today. Talking about drivers and 3-woods, the biggest problem clubs. And just remember, if that's your only problem, and you're hitting most of your other clubs good, it could be the club. It's not could be, it very likely is the club, not you. All right? Well, that's it for the Surge for today, and I'll be talking to you all again soon.